Today I'm celebrating Charles Bukowski, a writer that came to me much later in life. I think I was probably in my 40s when I discovered him, and I think I read 2 or 3 of his books, one of them being the Post Office, or at least it's set in his time working for the Post Office. And I loved his books, but it's his poetry that really astounded me. There's a couple of pieces that I will link to below that really had a very powerful effect on me. I loved talking to English classes about them. And it's interesting because of the writers that I have loved and enthused people about, many of them have lived what I would consider to be fairly exemplary lives, good people in traditional ways. And yet Charles Bukowski is probably as far from that as one could imagine. He spent most of his life as a disgusting, dirty, fat alcoholic, smoking endlessly, depressed in rooms on his own, having torrid affairs with, not the most wonderful of people, it seems, and having exploitative, weird relationships, torrid expression of emotion that then resulted in him later in life becoming this incredible writer. So he's a checkered character, to say the least. And there are other alcoholics that I celebrate in the course of this 365 days of festivals. People like Alan Watts, who is another absolutely incredible inspirational figure who was an alcoholic. Whether or not that was to the detriment of the people that he lived around or not, it's difficult for me to ascertain. And yet he communicated so much beauty, and Charles Bukowski, I believe, is one of those people for whom all sins are forgiven, because he really just communicated some of the most beautiful and powerful poetry that I think has ever been written. And it's amazing to feel the spiritual power of a writer such as him, when clearly he was no form of dogmatic religious believer in any way, shape or form. In fact, I don't know how you'd even feel about being described as spiritual, or in fact I don't even know if he ever used the word God, and yet there is this sense of a reverence for the divine beauty of existence. He saw something shimmering through reality and loved to perceive it. And I talked about him being this depressed character in these rooms, but at the same time he actually absolutely loved being drunk, smoking cigarettes, lying on some dirty, lumpy old bed, looking up at the ceiling and watching the light, feeling the freedom of what it was to be alive, appreciating the gift of existence. And so, even though, he may have even considered himself an atheist, and yet he venerated, worshipped, loved what it was to be alive, and put that into such beautiful words that I am really grateful for his existence on this planet. So today, honouring the unique style and talent, the genius of Charles Bukowski.